Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call the meeting of the Ferrisburg Planning Commission to order for Thursday, March 5th, 2026. Could I have a roll call, please?
Chairman Post,
Here.
Commissioner Carlson,
Here.
Commissioner Weber,
Here.
Commissioner Hawley, Commissioner Schulberg,
Present.
Commissioner DeYoung,
Here.
Commissioner Tuggle.
Here.
Mr. Chairman, I respectfully ask that Mrs. Hawley be excused.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. We have an amendment proposed to the agenda tonight. Has everyone seen the proposed amendment?
I should read it, please.
Read this?
Yes, please.
Okay. Craig has written to us suggesting that because of the concern that's been expressed about were we moving too fast and not considering enough public input, that we amend tonight's agenda to read item 6, public comments, to amend provisions relating to residential land uses, review processes, and development requirements for residential land uses, as well as other stated matters, and to amend the official zoning map of the city of Ferrisburg. And then item 7 would be a work session on housing. And if this amended agenda is approved tonight, the formal public hearing would be moved to our next regular meeting on Thursday, April 2nd. Is there support for this amendment?
Make that motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 So what we're going to do is, with respect to everyone who's coming here tonight, we would like you to address us and give us your comments if you are here to speak. So, in just a minute, we'll get to public comments. The approval of our minutes for February 5 as printed.
I do have a correction. It's just minor, just date on page 2 and page 3. It reads February 6 rather than February 5. So I would move to approve with that.
Do you see that, Craig?
What was that?
Page 2 and page 3 of the minutes reads February 6 instead of February 5.
Up at the top.
Any other corrections or comments? Okay. A motion to approve the minutes as corrected.
So moved.
It also says 2025, so.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
February. Is
Yep,
that what you're talking
2025.
about?
Yes,
Yeah, so
February
wanna-
6, 2025. Good catch. I didn't even know.
Yeah, so we want to change the date and the year.
Yep.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. So now it's the time for public comments. I'm happy to see so many people here tonight. And if you would like to speak, the procedure is to line up on the side of the building here, address myself, and limit your comments to 3 minutes, please. And please state your name and address. Is anyone here to address the Planning Commission tonight?
Do I have to put, you can probably hear me. I have a loud voice. Probably think it might-
Well, there are people who are listening to our meeting at home, and so I ask you to use the microphone.
Do we hold it then?
Yeah, hold
Okay.
it, and if, I might make a comment if you are dropping the microphone or not speaking into it, but we want everyone to have a chance to hear you.
Okay. I'm Roberta Porter, and I live at 17345 Ridge Avenue. And I had, first of all, I had a question as to why do you feel we need the changes now? I've lived in my residence for over 52 years, And there really hasn't been a whole lot of change in that area of anything, really, manufacturing or sales of any kind. And I'm just wondering why you feel the need to do it now. If any,
Thank you.
okay. And also, I'm against it because there isn't a whole lot of difference really between the two, between the core. Oh boy.
Car commercial.
Thank you. Yes, and service. So I don't really know. You know, that's another thing. I'm against it because if it is changed to service, more than likely my property value is probably going to go down some because typically service, when you go from that to service, it will have a tendency to lower your property value. So, and I guess that's it for me.
Great, thank you. And I just make a comment. You can ask questions or make comments, and we will listen, but we may not respond to each individual comment until we've heard everyone.
Okay.
So thank you again.
Okay, maybe you have comments for number 5, and you got comments number 8. So I don't know if I'm jumping the gun or not, but I definitely am not in agreement with rezoning the property. Number 1.
I'm sorry, did you state your name?
My name is Dave Domott.
Thank you.
I live at 17562 Reander Street. Anyway, I don't think you should rezone it because it's just not right. It's I think to try to rezone it, you should be ashamed of yourself because we don't want to pay more and I think we pay enough. You know, we pay a high water bill, a lot higher than Spring Lake Township, and we pay, I think it's higher than Grand Haven. Also, and the water is actually not better than Spring Lake Township. Okay, I paid $38 for 3 months in Spring Lake Township. This is a few years ago, and I paid up to $250 for water here. Which also, second thing is for leaf pickup. Okay, I had a stroke about 2 years ago, so I can't do as much as I used to. So I rake the leaves and excuse me.
I understand it's tough.
And so they pick up the leaves. And the first week, the leaves are new falling again. The second week, half of them are down. But the last week, most of them are down. But so I only have like Saturday. I only have a couple days to rake the whole yard. And so I think they should delay it 2 weeks at least. And I realize sometimes it gets snow, early, but we don't get snow before. I don't know when they do it, August. And so anyway, I used to live in North Dakota. I was in the Air Force, and I lived in North Dakota. And North Dakota does not have taxes like Minnesota does. Okay, Minnesota's taxes are very high. And in North Dakota, in Grand Forks, North Dakota, you have East Grand Forks and Grand Forks. The ones in Grand Forks, houses were worth back then, you buy a house for $50,000. Now you can't, of course. But they cost about $10,000 more in North Dakota than they did in Minnesota because people don't want the taxes. So anyway, that's just my comment.
Thank you, sir.
My name's Stu Urbantrout. I live at 16621 Lakeview. And my first comment is about this notice that was sent out. that doesn't explain why you're doing this or what you want to achieve when you're doing this. And the second part is, if you follow, and I did try to follow, this www.ferrysburg.org Boards Planning Commission, it gets you nowhere. I mean, you really have to hunt. I spent over an hour and I still didn't have the information that this is supposed to give. So finally I came down to the office and a nice gal there said, yes, we've got problems with that. And she wrote down the steps to go through and get to where I wanted. When I got home, I got to most of what I wanted, but this is not good. And your layout on the internet is just atrocious. You cannot navigate it. You need to, if you're making changes, you need to make changes in that so that people can get where they want and get the information that they want. Pages are referred to in some of it. You go down to that page, it's not there. It's 3 pages off to a different place. So that's mainly my comments on it, except if you're going to make a new R4, make it non-short-term rental. The ILO is part of R2, am I correct?
And we're here just to listen at this point.
Well,
We're not
okay.
We're not going to
If in fact the ILO is part of R2, which is you're going to change to become an R4, and you're eliminating the ILO, how does that affect the boat lots? There is no reference to the boat lots at all anymore.
I will mention for your benefit and everyone in the audience that David Jurosik, our planning advisor, is going to give a little presentation at the end of the public comments. And Craig, I would also note that I agree that our website could use some improvement for ease of navigation. So I'd just like to echo your comment on that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Nicole Larrabell, 16814, Virginia Overlay District. The overlay district is R1, not R2, right now. My public comment. The public hearing notices a proposed rezoning mailed to the group of 6 properties up for service rezoning, the group of 10 historic houses near Sitco rezoning R5, and the entire R1 Inland Lake Overlay District proposed to be rezoned R4. Our notices were postmarked on 2/23, received on 2/25, just 8 days before the scheduled public hearing tonight. It was the city's manager's position last time I talked to him that these notices were allowed to arrive late because the city wasn't required to notice us at all, that the one-day Tribune article classified notice was all that was required by the city to notify residents of rezoning. The proposed rezoning public hearing notices that were mailed to residents left out key information citizens need to know about their properties. The notices left out the following: current district standards, what's allowed to be built now, compared to proposed new standards. PUD max units per acre current and proposed, allowed uses now versus proposed, max units per building before and after proposed changes, lot size changes, setbacks, ADU changes, maximum lot coverage before and after. The notices were vague. and residents were expected to find out this information on what's being proposed to their property in relation to what's allowed now. That information could have been included in their mailed notices. There are proposed changes in every residential district in Ferrisburg, commercial and service districts as well. I'm here to advocate for a complete list of proposed changes, proposed to current standards, on a one-page document per zoning district. ADU summary document, PUD changes summary document, in relation to what's allowed now. Mailed to all residents and property owners whose district name is changing, whose district standards are changing, and whose properties are proposed for rezoning at least 15 days prior to the public hearing. With how many hours went into the city planner drafting and presenting these changes to the Planning Commission, hundreds of proposed changes to the 214-page zoning ordinance, creating memos for 10 meetings, it is not unreasonable for him to ask him to provide a full list of current standards and proposed changes, one per district. Mr. Jurosik has been paid over $19,000 so far for rewriting the ordinance.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Joe Lyons. I live at 16857 Virginia Avenue, not Pleasant Street, as indicated on the map that was accompanied with information that was disseminated on these changes. I believe our city charter clearly establishes that decisions involving zoning and land use policy ultimately require the review and approval of elected officials who are directly accountable to the public. Because zoning changes can significantly influence property rights, development patterns, and the financial expectations of property owners, these decisions carry consequences that extend well beyond routine administrative matters. For that reason, the proposed agenda directive appears to place an inappropriate level of responsibility on the Planning Commission, which serves as a volunteer advisory capacity. While the Planning Commission plays an important and valuable role in reviewing proposals and providing recommendations, the authority to initiate or advance directives that could materially alter land use outcomes should rest with elected representatives. Equally important is the need for meaningful public awareness and participation. At this stage, the broader public appears largely uninformed about the potential implications of the proposal. Changes affecting zoning and land use can have direct impacts on property values, investment decisions, and expected financial outcome for residents and property owners. Such matters deserve careful public discussion and transparency before formal action is considered. Accordingly, I believe the proposal should first be fully vetted through a process that includes public notice, clear explanation of the potential impacts, and oversight by elected officials. This approach would better align with the intent of the city charter, ensure appropriate accountability, and allow residents of the opportunity to understand and weigh in on decisions that may affect them both economically and within their community. In addition, I have contacted Ottawa County Attorney General Office regarding circulation of a referendum outlining lack of transparency and mistakes made on the proposal that fail to inform the public and indicates a desire to do so. Furthermore, I have solicited help to review the proposal with the express question of why these changes are being sought so closely following the acceptance of a community survey that does not support these changes. It appears that this change lacks foresight and reasoning regarding the desires of the community. I respectfully request that this plan be rescinded from the acceptance at this time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Clark Tibby. I live at 16927 West Spring Lake Road. I have an adjacent parcel on Lake Road between Lake and Royal. Short notice on this public hearing, but in reviewing the existing ordinances, section 3.130, section A2 of section 3.130 regarding off-site accessory buildings. The R1 designation on our current residence allows. R4 does not make mention of off-site accessory buildings. I've gone through the zoning board of review 4 times since I've been a 40-year resident and hope to do it again. I'm not sure what the ordinance changes will do. I'm curious if R4 ordinance is a higher density than the R1. I haven't found any specifics. Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Arlene DeYoung, 16927 Lake Road. And I just want to support the same thing the last 2 gentlemen, or the last 2 people here outlined, that this is too quick. And my husband's lived here for 81 years. And we've seen a lot of changes. And I think we need to take time to let everyone participate in this and not cram it down people's throats. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, I'm Brian Klingel from 17585 Mary Avenue. I'm the owner of that property. I would be a little bit of an opposing opinion to this concept. I do feel that the city is making strides to probably fully use or better use the sites that are available in the city that are currently being underutilized. Having gone through the build process through 2024 and into 2025, I would just say that to build on some of these lots is just very tricky, and to try to do all you can to conform to very stringent, the harshest and hardest restrictions on the lakeshore currently is the city of Ferrysburg, which is not being discussed. I mean, that's the big, glaringly obvious thing with the city of Ferrysburg's unique district that you have that I just built in. So I would say I would encourage it just from the economic standpoint. I know we talk about not wanting to change anything, but I look at my parcel alone was being taxed at $1,500 in 2023, and I just paid a $18,000 tax bill this year. So all I did was construct a house on a lot, and the city of Ferrysburg received the benefit of an additional $16,000 to use to beautify the community, and it has brought in some really great folks that are utilizing it. I did build the property as an Airbnb with that classification, with not that being the primary focus. I mean, if I found people that needed housing, like we just discovered, the property is currently being occupied by a city of Ferrysburg resident that had their house burned down on Spring Lake, and they are currently renting the property. So I think the image of landlord renting an Airbnb has a very bad stigmatism, but where would those residents have gone if their house burned down, if we didn't have Airbnbs and short-term rentals in our community available for them to utilize? So I'm just coming from an opposing opinion, and I do think it works towards the better interest of the city if we can gather more revenue and lessen the restrictions around future people that want to build beautiful homes, and encourage others after you build a beautiful home to clean up yours, because that is something that is not discussed. but many of the homes that are in the Ferrisburg area, it's hard in your guys' position and in the city manager's position to force people to do that. But it is unique when people do good things and build new structures that it does encourage the community to clean up their yards. So that would be my takeaway. Densities, non-densities, just remember, it's the most restrictive along the lakeshore. And that would be the point I would like to focus on. So.
Thank you.
My name is Brian Paul, and I'm at 17521 Williams Street. And I just wanted to voice a little bit of support for this. I may be kind of the opposite here of a lot of the people, but I see some good things coming from this, specifically the coverage percentages in the R4 district where I'm at, or this proposed R4 district. There are so many homes in this area with, you know, the side of the house is 2 feet from the property line, but I've got 100 feet of grass, which unlike a lot of other places in that area, that I can't put anything on because I'm at 35%. I think it's crazy. It's like 50 feet wide and 100 feet long. So, you know, if you were to look at most of the properties in the area where I'm living, most of those properties would not meet the current guidelines that you guys have set. So I see the need for maybe some changes. I'd like to be able to, you know, build my home or add extra paver areas and beautify the area, make the place look nice without having such a restrictive thing, especially when my neighbor's house is 2 feet from the property line and I'm 100 feet from the property line. So I just wanted to support a little bit of that. I also am supporting short-term rentals. I think it's good for the community. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, Alan Westhoff from 515 Pine Street in Ferrisburg. We've lived there, or I've lived there all my life, and I got a notice they're going to change it from core commercial to an R5 high density, and I tried to find that on the website and I could not, so I'd like to ask the question of what it actually is, what the R5 high density is. Thank you.
Thank you. David, when you make your presentation shortly, please keep in mind that the question that was just offered. Thank you.
Lisa Royce, 17700 Navajo. When was the last planning commission for doing a rezoning like this? Greg?
Lisa, please just direct your question, your comments to me, and we may or may not.
Well, I mean, we do this every 15, 20 years, do a general look at the city and see where it is. I've been to a couple of them. It's been a long time. And I know we've had public meetings where people will come in and they go to their little stations and see what they want. I mean, the planning commission has tried this, you know, to work with the community. We are landlocked all over the place, and we do have to eventually utilize the areas that we have, and it is not an easy position for you guys to be in when, you know, you can't grow land. So I agree with some of the statements that, you know, it should be a community-based and everybody should be involved, but I also think that you guys are in a hard position and change is inevitable. You have to change. I own houses in Muskegon, Grand Haven, the Village, and it's quite confusing because they're all different. And I heard somebody talking about the water bills. Well, it depends on when each municipality joined on to the water. I mean, in Grand Haven, I pay next to nothing to water bills. In my Village house, I pay every quarter $235 just ready to serve charges. And I have 2 people that live in the house, and their water is actually maybe $20. So it really, there's a lot of factors there, and you guys can't control that. So I just want to commend you guys on the job that you do. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Brian Land. I live at 17584 William Street. I want to address the comments that were made about percentage of coverage being at 35%. I think we should keep it at 35%. There's a reason that we had it at 35%, and it probably has to do with the drainage and how the, you know, the groundwater, that type of soil just doesn't, do well when it rains heavily. And so when you have people like Mr. Klingel build a house, his neighbors' yards end up having excessive water. In fact, I even had water flowing in my yard for the first time ever. So, and he overbuilt. The other thing is, not only did he overbuild, but nobody kept an eye on him while he was overbuilding. So my opinion is we got to stick with where we're at. We got to leave it at 35%, just so that we get proper drainage, so people aren't flooded. It's the right thing to do.
Thank you. Any further comments? Again, we're going to start the next item on the agenda, the revised agenda, I believe it's the work session. Is that right? Is that right, Craig?
Yes.
And David, in light of the comments here tonight, I'd like you to, if you're prepared, to kick off a review of how we got to where we are. We've been working on this project for quite a while. So would you give us some background, please?
I'm sorry, are you going to read letters?
Oh,
I do have one.
okay. So it's Lonnie. So I'd like to acknowledge letters that the commission has received. It's our policy, my policy, that we're not going to read each of these letters that have come in, but I do want to specifically acknowledge the letter writers so that they know that each member of the Planning Commission has received their written comments. So we have a written letter from Rebecca Hopp. We have 2 emails from Londi Furlow that have been submitted. And we also have an email from Skip Larabelle and an additional email from Michael Walker. So thank you to those people for submitting their comments. Oh, I'm sorry. And a email from Lori Pohl. Saying that right? Pohl. Yeah. So we appreciate comments in person or submitted by email or letter. Okay, so David.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. This is a housing reform project that the City Planning Commission has been working on for almost a year at this point. Over the last several months, and mostly over last summer and fall months, we had a number of workshops where we discussed zoning reform in order to increase housing supply and attainability in the City of Ferrisburg. This is based on an overall housing plan for the state of Michigan. It responds to the nationwide housing crisis. And it's really kind of a commitment of Ferrisburg to do its part in the matter. Now, it doesn't mean we have to open up the floodgates to development, but what the Planning Commission has been doing over the last several months is determining a way to allow for sensitive, context-sensitive infill residential development, allowing for residential in the downtown area, and allowing for the reuse of lots or the development of open lots in the city in a way that's sensitive to neighboring properties. So it's not a project to significantly increase densities or open up the floodgates, but to do our parts and to allow for increased housing in the city. So this was based on the city's master planning effort, and the master plan was adopted about a year ago. It was in March 2025. The master plan had a number of housing recommendations, and so over the last several months, we've been working through those recommendations to see how we could plug them into the zoning ordinance and make changes. Really, in summary, those recommendations from the master plan were to allow for attached multifamily and mixed-use buildings within our commercial zoning districts. So that's our core commercial, general commercial, and service districts. Right now, there is some level of residential in those districts, but it is limited. So allowing multifamily and apartments and other products in our downtown and our commercial zoning districts is really kind of a lower barrier of entry to having that type of product in the city. Also, on kind of the other end of the spectrum is allowing accessory dwelling units. So this proposal is recommending accessory dwelling units in most of the residential districts. Obviously, we're going to hear public input on all this tonight and at the next meeting. Also, recalibrating the requirements for attached housing. So we have districts already, 2 residential districts that allow for duplexes, triplexes, townhouses, and multifamily, but the requirements that we have make it almost impossible to build them. So each extra unit requires really a doubling, tripling, quadrupling of the size of a lot in order to build an attached product. So the effect of that is that if you wanted to do a 4-unit building in a district that allows it, you need a lot that's 4 times a single family lot, which that's pretty out of place if you have a more city-based context like this. So the idea was to calibrate some of the requirements so that you could do an attached product and really fit in a neighborhood with single-family, 2-family townhouses. So they're all fairly compatible. We've also worked to incentivize affordable, attainable housing as well as increasing housing supply. The plan also recommends streamlining review processes, and so this is not to give up authority to open the doors to without having any regulation or control, but to eliminate unnecessary barriers to review housing projects. Also, we look at general requirements for residential. So the minimum size of a dwelling, whether you need a garage or if you can just simply allow for driveway parking, as well as the dimensions, like the width of a housing product. So all of these were recommendations in the master plan for us to assess how we can incorporate them into the zoning ordinance. So obviously this is really I'd say more of although we've been working on this for several months, this is really kind of an unveiling to the public at this point. This is an opportunity tonight to hear what are the issues. We can always make changes and calibrate these requirements accordingly. There may be even sections of this draft ordinance that you decide that we may need to pass on or can take up another time. So this is the results of the a year-long master planning process, as well as almost a year-long process of discussions on first Thursdays of each month. So with that, I can walk through all the sections of the draft ordinance and just kind of give an overview of what's been included. I think this presentation could be posted online so that people could reference those who are watching this meeting online or that are here tonight. And then within that same spirit, your suggestion about including more information about existing regulations versus proposed. I am working on that now, and I can continue to refine that so that could be available for our next meeting as well. So I think that is important because this is a significant amount of information. It's a lengthy adoption ordinance with multiple attachments that are full chapters in length in some cases. So it is a lot to take in. Obviously, the Planning Commission has been reviewing this for several months, but this is new, and this is going to take some education and outreach and public input before this can go off to the City Council for their review. So I'll walk through a number of slides here. If you'd like me to stop and explain anything further, I can. I think I will address most of the public comments just through this presentation. So I'll start from the top here.
David, just one moment. Are we good? Thank you. Thank you. Yes, please continue.
Okay. So for those who have seen the official adoption ordinance, This is the first page here. It's really the kind of the legal document which makes the changes to the zoning ordinance if this was to be adopted by the city council. So there's a section, and each section affects a different part of the zoning ordinance. So it's almost like a playbook on how the ordinance is changed when it's recodified. So this will be a review of the text amendments as well as the map amendments, as well as I'm going to offer some alternative suggestions, especially concerning the zoning map later in the slides. And also, this presentation follows the sections one by one. So if folks have the copy already of the ordinance, they can follow through. Also, they can find online or access it from the city staff. They'll be able to work through this. But so I think after this meeting, folks will be able to work through this presentation. That's hopefully we can post it online or have it available, and they can correspond that to the sections of the ordinance. Okay, so sections 1 and 2 of the ordinance, these are somewhat housekeeping items, but we're renaming dwelling types throughout the ordinance. So it's really dwelling, single unit, 2 unit, multiple unit, and multiple unit apartment. And the section 2 then renumbers affected articles, sections, figures, and tables throughout. So as a part of this process, we are touching a lot of sections of the zoning ordinance. We're adding a new chapter. We're making some reorganization. So the ordinance is just directing us to make all those associated section references throughout the entire book. Section 3. Now we're going to talk later about rezoning, but this is simply renaming zoning districts based on a logical hierarchy of lot size. So right now we have districts that are named RD, RG1, RG2. We have the Inland Lake Overlay District over RG1 and the RG3 high density residential. So we actually, no one had any background on where the G came from at our last meeting. So the idea here is just to simplify the names. It's called R1, R2, R3, R4, R5. And that's really just based on a hierarchy of lot size. And then after each R and the number, you'll have your descriptive district after that. So low density dune residential, medium density, high density, and so on. So section 3 is just renaming the districts. And just to make a note, it was mentioned before, the Inland Lake Overlay District over RG2. That was an error on my part. Is actually it's RG1. So I apologize. There was a typo. It is Inland Lake Overlay District over RG1, but the proposed district is this R4, which I'll explain. I have a map of that later in the presentation.
Thank you.
Okay, the next section 4 of the ordinance is going to add or revise definitions. So again, these are all of our dwelling unit definitions. We also have a definition for maximum building width. So in the core commercial district, we are putting a maximum building width on waterfront structures. And we also have a new definition of mixed use building. So all of these are well, all but one are types of buildings that we're regulating in the zoning ordinance now and continue to regulate through this. Okay, the next section 5, this is just a requirement within Article 3 of the ordinance to strike the garage requirement. So right now, any new dwelling in the city requires an attached or detached garage. That does add to the expense of building a new home. Striking that requirement would allow some flexibility, so for someone could build a home without a garage. They would obviously need to have off-site parking or on-site parking, off-street parking, and that's required to be 2 spaces per dwelling unit. So under this ordinance, you could build a house without a garage and park 2 cars or more in a driveway. Section 6. Now, this includes an Exhibit A as part of the ordinance. This amends the entire Article 4, which is our special land use chapter. Now, special land use is a type of land use which is allowed, but it's subject to discretionary review. Right now, it's a review by the Planning Commission, and approval by the city council. But also in this chapter, there's a number of specific use requirements for various uses throughout the city that's also packed in this Article 4. So the idea here is that we're going to remove all those specific use requirements and put them in a new Article 5, which would be after this. Because some uses should be permitted. For instance, we're recommending that accessory dwelling units be permitted, but they have specific use requirements. So there's no place to put those uses if they're not special land uses. So it's a cleaner way just to include all use requirements in a separate article, and that's going to be the next slide, but that will be Article 5. But Article 4, special land use, is just kind of a revamp to that process. It does delegate special land use approval authority to the Planning Commission. So we have some very minor applications that go through the Planning Commission and then go all the way to the City Council for approval. The City Council has a lot on their docket, a lot of issues aside from development review, and it's something that we're recommending that it stays at the Planning Commission level. It is most common in planning and zoning in Michigan for special land uses to be reviewed and approved at the Planning Commission level. But ultimately, the City Council has to be comfortable with that. Another option is for if there are certain land uses that you wanted City Council to review and approve, you could call those major special land uses, and those could go to City Council. I understand at the most recent City Council meeting, the wireless communications towers, there was I believe the desire for the City Council to approve special land use permits for wireless. So preliminaries, it allows for a housing project or a commercial development to get a use approval with a concept plan. So that would allow the detailed engineering, the detailed architecture to occur after the Planning Commission embraces the use for a particular site. Then they would have to come in after that approval for a final plan review with all of the engineering and architectural details. So in some cases, you may not feel a special land use is appropriate for a site, and then someone could get that answer before putting in tens of thousands of dollars into that type of design process. So it's a little bit more of a user-friendly process. And lastly, we have a checklist for that preliminary plan review. So again, this is a policy question. First, approval authority, is it Planning Commission or is it Council? And then second, should we allow for the preliminary plan review as part of special land use review? So both of those are really trending toward more common practice, but that will be a policy decision for you and the City Council. Section 7, this is also part of Exhibit B. So again, as I mentioned before, this is all the specific use requirements. So I cut all of those out of Article 4, pasted them in Article 5. It's a new article of the zoning ordinance. No changes except for to add the requirements for accessory dwelling units. So that's a new dwelling type that we're proposing, and the requirements for accessory dwelling units will live here in Article 5. And we're going to touch on that a little bit because it's an interesting topic. But so accessory dwelling units are secondary living spaces on the same lot as a single family home. So this is only going to be allowable where we allow for single family detached homes. ADUs can be detached cottages, garage or attic additions, or basement conversions. We have requirements for those. So I mentioned in Article 5, there'll be those requirements. So we have a size limitation, 600 square feet or 50% of the dwelling, so you can't exceed it. And the reason for that is so that they truly remain accessory and incidental, secondary to a principal detached house. We do have a requirement there that the principal home needs to be owner occupied, or both the principal and accessory can be rented under one contract. It's also recommended that they are restricted from being short-term rentals, but they're actually housing in Ferrisburgh. Exemptions, we put in a couple exemptions for the total size of accessory buildings and the percentage of the rear yard. So it's really kind of an incentive to allow for accessory dwelling units on single family lots. And so right now this draft includes them in R2, R3, and R5 on any lot, and R1 and R4 on non-waterfront lots. Again, we discussed last meeting a little bit about the waterfront versus non-waterfront, and that's something we can continue to discuss. But for now, it's on non-waterfront in this draft. Okay, some of these are kind of our housekeeping, but Section 8 of the ordinance renames Article 5, Site Plan Review Requirements, to Article 6. Sections 9 through 12. So sections 9 through 12 have to do with development requirements for our commercial zoning districts. So as we allow for new building types like mixed-use buildings and apartments, multifamily within these commercial zoning districts, there are some zoning requirements, development requirements that make it difficult or almost impossible to build. So what this is doing is allowing some waiver or flexibility on parking and landscaping and other development requirements so that these buildings can go in without the need to go through a variance process through the Zoning Board of Appeals. But also, this does also, the intent here is to improve the look and feel of new downtown buildings. So the first bullet point there is we have a requirement for commercial buildings that if they're 100 feet or wider, you need to have architectural articulation. So it needs to have various elements like overhangs and windows and shutters and porches and things like that, so to give some interest and quality to a building. But that's 100 foot. Anything under 100 feet wide, that's not required. So we're recommending that that's knocked down to 30 feet for our core commercial zoning district to hold those buildings to a higher standard. Also, we're including transparency requirements for buildings in the core commercial district. So that's essentially a minimum and maximum of windows and doors. So that allows for window shopping. It allows you to see inside of a restaurant, see people dining, see people shopping. It adds to a level, adds to the excitement and vibrancy of a downtown. So in a lot of Main Street type communities, you'll see this transparency requirement just to give a more of a Main Street look and feel. And so we're ensuring, we'd like new buildings in the downtown area to have that higher aesthetic. As I mentioned before, we waive some landscaping requirements as we draw buildings closer to the street in these districts. So we have front yard landscaping, but when we're drawing a building closer to the public right of way, that conflicts with front yard landscaping. So in a more downtown area, you want to allow that flexibility, so you're not requiring front yard suburban landscaping in a more urban downtown feel. And then also parking lot landscape requirements. So lots of suburban commercial lots, you'll have islands and peninsulas planted with trees. You can't really do that in a downtown area. So in the S and CC districts, we're building in some waivers so you wouldn't have to do that, because you have to be more efficient with your use of land in a downtown area. Okay, moving on then into our parking and loading. So this is section 13 of the ordinance. We're renaming it, so you're going to see a few of these slides because we added a chapter. All the subsequent chapters are retitled. So that goes from Article 6 to 7. Sections 14 and 15. Now this relates to parking requirements. And one of the barriers to housing is sometimes how much parking we require. So most zoning ordinances nationwide overpark sites, and parking really takes away from the efficiency of how you can build a site. We have a lot of parking lots that are half unused. We have really inefficient use of land when we overpark sites, and it makes housing even more difficult to build. So we've adjusted some of the parking requirements. First, we've added in at least one extra parking space for an ADU, which is the accessory dwelling unit. Single unit and 2 unit remains 2 per unit. Multiple unit is the same for it's 1.5 to 2 per unit based on the how many bedrooms. And then units within the downtown district, we're dropping down to 1 per unit. And that's based on really intent to allow for on-street parking as well. So I mean, typically in a downtown district, core commercial district, the parking on-site parking, off-street parking is typically lower than if you were in a general commercial district. So there's a few slight adjustments to parking as it relates to housing. Okay, section 16, this restricts front yard parking on non-waterfront lots in the CC district. So so these are not all housing. So some of these relate to other goals of the master plan, but it's anticipating that this work may encourage or incentivize new buildings downtown. So, but when that happens, we don't want downtown buildings to be behind parking, behind a sea of parking. We want it to be a more of that Main Street type atmosphere. So what this does is ensures that parking lots are to the side or rear of buildings on the non-waterfront lots. Now, on the other side of Pine, when buildings redevelop in the future, that's where you may have parking between the street and the building than the waterfront. So we wouldn't recommend that for the east side of Pine Street, the waterfront lots. Section 17 is renaming the sign code from 7-8. Section 18, now this is an Exhibit C, so this is an attachment to the ordinance as well. And this is a complete overhaul of the planned unit development regulations. So the city has gone through 2 planned unit development reviews in the last 2 years, and it goes through the special land use process, and it allows for waivers and variations to zoning requirements. That is allowable through the Planning or the Zoning Enabling Act in Michigan, but it's more common and more appropriate, in my opinion, to have that go through a rezoning process rather than special land use, because it's a legislative action. It's a ordinance amendment for that particular property, and I think the more appropriate route is to have that be a planned unit development be an overlay zoning district rather than simply special land use. So the intent is similar though. A planned unit development allows for some flexibility in zoning as long as it meets the goals of the city. And so with this, just to explain it, the planned unit development, as I said, is an overlay. You rezone to an overlay. So the zoning map stays the same. You have your base zoning district. So let's just say you have a general commercial base zoning and you want to do a PUD with a mixed use building and you want some variations to that. You rezone to an overlay and then you come in with a preliminary development plan that goes to the Planning Commission and then goes straight to the City Council for approval of the rezoning and that preliminary plan. So the current process actually goes, it's a little bit opposite. You have to bring all of your details to the Planning Commission, everything all at once. Detailed engineering, architecture, everything goes to Planning Commission, and then it goes to City Council. So again, that is a very expensive process, tens of thousands of dollars. Some cases, we see designs that are $75,000 to $100,000 worth of work without even knowing if you're going to get City Council authorization for it. And some may say, well, that's not our problem, but in a way it is. These are our customers, people that are investing in the city. Deserve an answer to know if their project's going to be embraced before they waste a lot of money on something. But with that, with the preliminary review, you would have the amount of information you need to make an informed decision. You would know the look, you would know how buildings are placed, you would know the exact land uses. So it allows to go through a rezoning process all the way up to City Council, who approves it, but you don't have that final engineering and final architecture. But it's pretty much everything you would need to know if the project is right for that location. So it really kind of flips the process a little bit in order to have that preliminary review of a project so that they know then they could invest in that detailed planning, which then comes back to the Planning Commission for final approval. And then this also really includes a heavy emphasis on housing. So in order to get any sort of flexibility on housing, or to get a density bonus, you have to demonstrate that the goals of this section of the master plan are met. So it's not something that we would just allow for housing development just to come in, get some extra density. If it doesn't meet the the character of that area. If it does, it's got to be compatible. It's got to meet the city's goals. There's really a high level standard, and so that's all plugged in this new planning and development chapter and process. Okay, section 19 of the ordinance, just another name change for the district requirements. And then again, now this is all part of Exhibit D. So, so again, this is now Article 10. So if anyone's familiar with the current zoning ordinance, this is current Article 9, proposed Article 10, and this is really the heart and soul of zoning, which is your zoning district requirements. So there were a lot of comments about what's allowed now versus what's proposed. I'll do my best to explain that here, given the kind of the brevity of this presentation, but I will expand on this in a subsequent report or more detailed set of slides so that we have that information out there. So
great.
So,
thank you.
Sure. Okay. So exhibit, and we're about halfway through, by the way. That's okay. So this exhibit 19, section 19, exhibit D. The first is the low density dune residential R1. This is currently RD, proposed new name. So there's no change of this district except for to add accessory dwelling units on non-waterfront lots. So that's the only change here. Next is this is low density residential R2. This is currently RG1. This adds accessory dwelling units, and concerning dimensional requirements, no change. Now, I don't want there to be confusion. We are discussing rezoning a certain portion of RG1 to R4, and I'm going to address that and also offer some alternatives to what is in the draft. So before anyone want to jump to any conclusions yet, we are addressing some of the concerns that we've heard tonight. So the next one then is medium density residential R3. This is currently RG2. Adds accessory dwelling units, and then so we're not adding any new housing types, but except for accessory dwelling units. And then this is where we begin to make some adjustments to lot size, lot width, and front setbacks. And so this was based on a couple of different things. In this district, we allow for some attached housing, and this is the concept before where I said for every extra unit you need to double your lot. So if let's just say it requires 7,000 square feet for a single family unit, for a two family you need 14,000. So in this case, we're suggesting a lesser amount of so I can pull that for you when we look at it, but it's a lesser square footage per dwelling unit, so that it's not a unit surrounded by a sea of open space in an area where no other house has that type of open space around it or that large of a lot. So the dimensional standards are adjusted, and also I've also done an analysis on a number of blocks throughout the city and took the average lot size, average width, average frontage, average front, side, mirror setbacks, as well as the lot coverage. And so based on that analysis comes a block by block analysis for most areas in the city. We're adjusting down to existing conditions as well, just to reduce the amount of nonconformities. Okay, the next, this is the medium density lakefront cottage residential, R4. And this is where I don't know, a lot of folks have asked about this tonight. So this is currently RG1 Inland Lake Overlay District. And so, and we're gonna come back to this as well. I have some slides at the end, but the idea here is that so all of this area that's in the overlay district, the purpose of that overlay district was to recognize that most of the lots within the overlay are non-conforming in one way or the other. So, for instance, you have many lots that are narrower or much smaller, and then when you're applying RG1 setbacks, it makes it impossible to build a lot. So if you didn't have the overlay district like this or some zoning tool, there would be numerous variance request of the zoning board of appeals, because you have this whole area of RG1 that requires 10,000 square foot lots at 100 feet wide, but the majority of lots don't meet those requirements. They're smaller, narrower. So two different ways to do this. You can have an overlay district that allows for some flexibility on setbacks, but the overlay district as written is very confusing, and the thought was that it may be a simple approach just to create a new zoning district, R4, for the area within the overlay district. And so with that, we had suggested, like the other districts, allow for accessory dwelling units, and then update the dimensional standards based on existing lots and dwellings to reduce nonconformities. So we'd be reducing the lot size to the average within that area. And I'll talk about this a little, because I think since the original work, I think there are two distinct areas. So I'm actually proposing later that we significantly reduce the size of the R4 district, and the rest of it can stay within RG1. So, but we're going to get to that. But the idea here is this is not an attempt to increase density in RG1 ILO. It's an attempt to match the zoning requirements to the existing built environment, as well as the setbacks. So we want requirements for minimum lot size and minimum width and setbacks to match what's already out there. So if every lot is 6,000 square feet in a certain block, why are we requiring 10,000 feet and 100 feet wide? The zoning should really be calibrated to match what's there. But as I looked at it, I feel that it went too generalized, and as I did more assessment of the blocks, I think there's a natural break point to where R4 should be versus where it should remain RG1. So I'm going to show that here shortly. Okay, and then next is our high density residential R5. This is currently RG3, and so this is a zoning district where we allow really the whole full range of housing. This allows for single family, two family, and then so we already allow for attached house, what we call multiple unit attached dwellings. So those are townhouses side by side, and multi-unit apartment dwellings. So that could be side by side, top and bottom, more small apartment buildings. So we're putting here caps on those though. So we're putting 6 units per dwelling on side by side townhouse type buildings. So multiple unit attached. And then for small apartment buildings, 8 per dwelling. So a dwelling is a building, and there's multiple dwelling units in a dwelling. So right now in this district, there's actually no cap, but you can go through a special land use process for anything over 5 or 5 plus. So we're actually saying adding those caps on these types of buildings within this district. So it's the densest residential zoning district that we have, but we're making some changes. And now with that, we're also reducing the lot size and width, front setbacks, and side setbacks. And so some of this was based on the block analysis, because we were seeing a number of lots that were less than 7,000 square feet, which is the minimum, and less than 70 feet, which is the minimum width. Also, same thing to where we just required an extra size, a double size lot for a 2-unit building. So this is another one where we're kind of adjusting the lot size. So as you get a larger building, your lot has to get bigger, but not double. It's just it's something to more, as I said before, to more fit the context, fit the area. Okay, I'm getting into a few of our commercial districts. So the service district was mentioned earlier by someone who owned property in that area. So we were amending the intent statement. We're adding multiple unit apartment buildings and mixed use buildings, and we're deleting single family and 2-family dwellings. So service district, if you look at what's there, it's not really a single family, 2-family neighborhood. Service is really kind of a hybrid of light industrial and other general business type uses. So it's a nice district because it allows for a wide range of commercial and more light industrial type uses, Whereas where our core commercial is really that downtown-oriented district. So there's a clear difference, and you can see it on the map and on aerials and just walking the street. You know when one begins and one ends. And we're also just making some adjustments to allow for easier redevelopment for residential with some setback adjustments. Core commercial, similar. We're improving the intent statement, adding multiple unit attached dwellings, multiple unit apartment dwellings, and mixed use buildings in core commercial. So again, core commercial is our downtown zoning district. We are updating the dimensional standards, so we're reducing setbacks. And then one thing we did is I mentioned before, we're adding a 60% building width max for waterfront lots. So again, as some of the marina buildings or industrial buildings redevelop, no time soon, I don't think. But as they do, we want it to be opened up to the waterfront a bit more and to put a maximum on how wide a building can be so that we can have more connection to the waterfront. So not necessarily related to housing, but related to the master plan. General commercial. So we're at, again, intent statement, we're adding in all the same residential uses as core commercial. Also, we're restricting personal and commercial storage suites and self-storage to areas that are not fronting Van Wagner. So this there's only so many areas left for housing, and we already have a lot of commercial storage suites, and this would restrict it on some of our remaining lands. Also, it makes some adjustments to dimensional requirements, again, to support residential development and redevelopment. Section 19, again, this really kind of reinforces what I said before about adding caps on the number of units per building. So Section 19 addresses this again, whereas you have 6 units in a multiple unit attached dwelling, 8 in a small apartment building. But then when we get into the commercial districts, we're not putting any caps on density. As long as you meet your setbacks, your lot coverage, and everything else, there's really no cap. I mean, it's limiting by your site and by meeting every other requirement. Okay, now this one's interesting. We're getting toward the end here before I get into some of the concerns that we've heard tonight. This is the minimum floor area and dimensions. And as we know, Ottawa County did a project. It was the Ottawa County a small home footprint. Here, I might be saying that wrong.
Small footprint homes, correct?
Small footprint home project where they have a number of templates for housing. Right now, we have a minimum size of a single-family unit. I believe is 960 square feet. So this would allow for smaller single-unit dwellings. The smallest small footprint template house is 440 square feet. Now that is pretty small, so that would be a decision if that group of housing types are there options. I think 3 different concepts. Smallest is 440, then I think it's 675, then there's one just over 1,000 square feet. So right now we have 960. This proposal would lower that minimum to 440 to allow the smallest type from Ottawa County's work. Now, again, we discussed this at our last meeting. I think we had 650 in the previous draft, and we thought, well, I think the discussion was that, well, let's put it at 440, have the discussion, and determine if we want to allow that smallest concept, or if we feel that, and maybe that's a little bit too aggressive, let's start with option 2, which was 650, 675, somewhere around there. So that's a discussion to have. As for the other housing types, slight reduction in area. So like a 2-unit dwelling, it would be 600 square feet per dwelling unit. So a duplex would have to be 1,200 square feet. And then there's some slight adjustments to the other types of units as well. We've also lowered the minimum horizontal dimensions as well. So I believe it's 24 feet now. There's opportunities to go to 22 feet for a single unit building. And then when you have attached products like a townhouse duplex, when you have them side by side, a lot of cases those go down to 18 feet wide. I've seen some actually narrower, but we have 18 feet in this draft. Okay, getting toward the end here. Appreciate everyone's patience. We're now in part section 20, Exhibit E, and this is the zoning map amendment. So folks did get notices about this. The first thing concerning the notices, the Zoning Enabling Act, actually, when you're rezoning 11 or more continuous parcels, there is actually zero written notice requirement. So we decided that it was appropriate to send written notices to everybody within the affected area. That is something that I'm sure if directed, we'll do again for the public hearing next month and include additional information. So the intent of that part of the Zoning Enabling Act is that a lot of jurisdictions go through significant jurisdiction-wide rezoning processes or significant overhauls, and in some cases it's very burdensome to inform every landowner. But it is the right thing to do, and we did do it, and we will do it again. And we'll include more information as well in that. But this is part of the zoning map amendment part of the project. So again, as I mentioned before, it removes the Inland Lake Overlay District, and the intent there is to just have the areas there be just their own zoning district. It also, as I mentioned before, it renames the residential zoning districts. So the entire map, every residential zoning district will have a new name. Does not mean those are being rezoned. Only the areas that we're calling out for rezoning will be rezoned. But other districts are renamed based on our new hierarchy of R1 through R5. So this is the new map. I'm going to focus in on the areas of potential change. Okay, so first we had folks in this area. This is a proposal to rezone an area from the core commercial district to the service district. So core commercial is the purple area on the map, and then the blue area is service. So outlined in red there is so this area on the current map, outlined in red, is actually purple core commercial. We're recommending that it be rezoned to service, the light blue. So that's more in line with everything west of Oak and further south. And if you look at the buildings on both sides of the road, you'll see that is really, they're really the same character, it's the same context, the same neighborhood of buildings and lots. So the thought was that the S district would be more compatible with the remaining service zoned lots. Now the next couple lots down, these are so this is a number of lots that are zoned core commercial, but they're primarily it's residential. So this is a residential area. When we looked at this, we said we're somewhat surprised that this entire area is zoned core commercial all to where it is, and we thought, well, maybe it is a better idea. It's just to embrace the residential aspect of these several lots here and rezone them to the R5, which is our current RG3. And we could continue to look at this, and we may look at the other. It could be an R3 lot provision, but we thought since it's going from such a high intensity core commercial that it'd be most appropriate to just give it the highest density residential. But I think that's still open to discussion. If we hear back from folks and say, we prefer this to be single family or more of like an R3, that's something that we can consider as well. Because right now, core commercial is a very different thing than what is out there in that district. So I think in any case, I think it makes sense to look at a residential designation for these several lots here. And not core commercial, unless the folks who live there want to develop in commercial as commercial. I mean that's also the opportunity. If we heard from everyone that says, yeah, we want to sell, we want to sell this to a developer for commercial building. Well, okay, but we haven't heard that. And folks I've seen a lot of investment into those homes there. They look great. It's just a nice part of the city, and the zoning should probably match what's there, unless we hear different. But we can consider between R5 and I think R3 might also be an option there as well that we can look at. But we'd like to hear from folks on that. Okay, and then lastly is this Inland Lake Overlay District. So everything there outlined in the red lines, and that's the orange on the map, is currently zoned RG1 with the overlay district. So as I mentioned before, the overlay district is the purpose is to allow for some flexibility on setbacks because it recognizes that most of the lots in this area are non-conforming to width or size requirements. And so the thought was, let's just make this one district. It's complicated to have an overlay district. It would make sense to have its own traditional zoning district that's different than RG1. So there were some concerns with that. I think that I've already heard in public comments, as well as some of the written notices, that the sizing, the proposed sizing of the lots, I think most importantly that the minimum size, minimum width, and lot coverage may have been a little bit too aggressive. And they were mostly based on some of the lots. I looked at several blocks, and there are a lot of blocks and lots that are 5,000 square feet, 50 feet wide. There's a lot of them that are that size. But when I did an additional analysis and measured a number of other lots, hundreds, I think there's a distinction between east and west. So my thought is that one thought would be that on this west side, we retain the existing base district requirements. So this is our new proposed R2. R2 is currently RG1. So in this area, the lots on Carlson, Virginia, Cecilia most of them they're more conforming there than on the east side, over here. So you have more conforming lots on the north side of the bayou and on the west side of this area. So I think my thought is that we can keep the base district now of RG1, and that may be a more appropriate way to handle this. On Royal and Lake Road, those lots are mostly conforming to lot size, but they're pretty much all of them are not conforming to lot width. So I still think we could probably retain the RG1, which is now R2 over there, but I would build in a provision to allow for lesser setbacks on non-conforming with lots. In there, I would recommend the 5-foot minimum, 15-foot total side setback scenario, because that really fits those lots there on the left side of this area. So I think we're basically just keep the zoning as is for this area, and then allow for some provisions for reduced side setbacks on those narrow lots. And then this could just be R2 with no other changes. I think that would satisfy concerns, plus include some allowance for those unique non-conforming lots. Now, when we go to the east side, my thought is that this is different. This is where these are where all the boat lots are. And these lots are if I can provide some data as well to back this up, but if you look at these lots, the averages are going to be around 6,000, 6,500, 6,000, and 6,000 square feet. And then the lot size, the width are going to be around 60. So, I mean, you're going to have variations. I threw out, when I did the block analysis, I'm throwing out the outliers. So there, you obviously see some large lots in there. So I did throw out those in terms of the averages. But I think this area could be a new district, R4. And this is because I think this area is unique from the west side. So here, but as I looked at some additional blocks, I think we can up the minimum lot size and lot width. I had 5,000 square feet minimum and 50 foot wide. I would suggest that we up that to 6,060. That's more in line with the average of really all of these lots in this area. And so that's really, it's not going to create a lot of extra density. It's not something to where it's a major concern of opening things up, but it would allow for redevelopment of lots with that are consistent with what's out there now. And if there are some larger ones, they could be divided in a way that's compatible with neighboring lots. Because if they're all, like, if there's a whole row of 60-foot lots, well, why can't a 120-foot lot be split into two 60s? It's just, it matches the character and context. So that's the intent. But as I did additional analysis of these blocks over the last week or two, I think we need to adjust those upward from what's in the current draft. And then with that, we also, I think, do need to change the maximum lot coverage. So we had folks who had comments for and against lot coverage changes tonight. I think we need to adjust it down from where it is in this draft. And maybe it's not exactly what it was. Maybe it's a little change, but I think where we had it at 60 was too much based on additional review and measurement of many lots in this area. So it's 60, and that the 60 was based on the current RG3 lot coverage requirement. So because these lots were more similar to RG3 lots, that's where that 60 came from. But the more and more I measured, I think the actual lot coverage is less. So I would suggest somewhere 30, 35 now. I think maybe you could look 35 to 40, and that would prevent a lot of concern with overdevelopments, McMansions, things like that, that would really affect the character of this area. So with that, I would suggest this is a difference, different from what was in the packet, but I think this is maybe a more context-sensitive way to handle this area. And looking forward to some discussion on that and more from the public to see if this would satisfy some of the concerns. And hopefully the intent is clear here, that West Side, we want to really keep it as it is. Everywhere we want to keep it as it is, but West Side, RG1 currently, and R2 should really maybe just be what the requirements are for this area, because they're larger, aside from the Royal and Lake lots that are narrow. East Side, we create a new district, and I might even rename this to medium density cottage area rather than lakefront, because none of them are lakefront except for boat lots. So, but it's kind of a cottage atmosphere. But I think we could recalibrate the proposed dimensional requirements to better match what's there now. Okay, that was a lot. I apologize. But hopefully that was a lot of information that hopefully it's helpful, and at least we can refer back to sections or slides tonight or as folks look through this presentation. I'm not sure if we're going to take more public comments. I didn't know the order of this when I created the presentation, but we will continue to take public comments, whether it's tonight or next meeting. Additional discussion, revisions if necessary. If you're comfortable with setting another public hearing, a new public hearing for April 2, we can do that. And we could also do that with some of the changes discussed tonight. Also, the public notice, we could be clear on each area that's proposed for rezoning on existing versus proposed, and clarify the intent. And ultimately, after a public hearing, you would make a recommendation to the city council, and then the city council has the final approval authority on any change to the zone.
Thank you, David. That was really good. First, I'd like to ask for comments.
Let's be clear about that. We are looking not just, as Mayor Carlson said one time, I thought that was really a cogent point. We're looking not at today or tomorrow or next year or the year after. We're looking at 20, 30 years in the future. How's our city going to grow? One of the things we were charged with after the master plan was accepted by city council was for us to look at affordable housing, and that's the main goal here. the only way we can do anything for affordable housing is by using zoning. We're not developers. We're not going to abolish Leppinks and build condos there. We're not going to build a commercial district. We have to, our job is to manage our zoning in the way that will best allow Ferrisburg to grow in a good manner, in the way that you want it to grow. I too don't want to see big 5-story condos. You know, I don't want to see busy streets and a huge city landscape, because that's not who we are. So I think an open house might be a good thing. I think we have to remember the goal, which is affordable housing. And I also have to take issue with the idea that for some purpose, people think David presented all of these changes and made all these changes, and we just sat here and went, okay. No, we debated, we researched. He is an expert. He guided us in the process. He summarized things as he did tonight. We made these decisions. Some of us didn't always agree with all of them. But one of the things I think is important to remember is that we not only, Gary and I went to a forum from the City of Grand Haven's Chamber of Commerce about affordable housing. We have done research. We are all graduates of the Michigan State Citizen Planner class. We're not here to bamboozle you. We take his advice because he's probably forgotten more than most of us ever knew, if you ever know that old joke. So I think, you know, we have to know that the process here is trying to be open, and he did not present these changes. We took the charge that we were given by council, and carefully, we really are trying to do the very best that we can here.
Thank you. Sandy?
Just have a brief comment. And I think one of the things that stood out to me through this whole process, you know, we started with the master plan open house, I think it was almost 2 years ago exactly, and have kind of moved through a lot of the recommendations that we got from that. And then one of the biggest things that stood out, and I hope that you all heard this from what David presented tonight, is a lot of the changes are really to kind of be in more alignment with what is actually existing in the city. And then, you know, adding on some vision, hopefully for the future, with some positive changes. That's my comment.
Jordan, Richard, Connor?
Yeah, I think that presentation was really informative. Thank you, David. I just had like a couple little minor things that I wrote down. I do have some concern or hesitation with section 19 when you talked about minimum floor area, that 440 square feet. I don't know if that set very well with me. I think maybe we should look at that 600 number, but that's just my opinion. I did like when we talked about along, I think it was Oak Street, when we talked about switching that to R5. I was a little more comfortable switching that to R3. And then I guess definitely would like to see a public hearing on April 2nd. This is the first time that we have seen some of this information. So it's a lot to digest, and I think that the public deserves that time. Let me see if that's everything. Yeah, and then just the only other thing, so when we talk about that division on that west side for R4, so David, you talked about keeping things the same, and if we're switching it to R2, I just don't know, having it been the inland lake overlay before, if things would be the same or if there would be some adjustments for that.
Yes, so R2 is the current RG1. So
Yes.
it would be the same zoning district, just renamed to R2.
Okay.
For the west side of that area.
Okay.
And so then all the overlay district does is allow for variation for non-conforming lots. So that's something that we would just continue to build in, but simplify it.
Setbacks. Okay. All right, so that's really all I had.
Okay, so David, I think this was a really good presentation, and I'd like to echo what the commissioners have said and what you have said, that we're trying to listen to the community, and we have been working on this for months and months, and so we have more familiarity with what's going on, but I think tonight's hearing and the questions and comments are really helpful for us as we go forward to next month's meeting when we will have a public hearing. And David and Craig, some of the comments have been directed at the council, the city website, and suggesting that we could do better in making the information as easily available and as clear as possible, because it's so much that we're attempting to do. So I would just ask you to do your best on that. I also want to say, between now and next month, not to put too much on you, Craig, but if someone has a question and you just don't feel you're getting an answer, give Craig a call. He's always very helpful to me when I have a question that I don't understand about something that we're attempting to do. So we're not trying to fool anyone. We've been conscientiously working on what we hope will be a really good package of changes that will make Ferrysburg a little easier to encourage housing in the future. So with that, we have an opportunity for a second public comment period. So I am going to offer a second opportunity for the folks here to make comments. I would just ask you to keep in mind it's getting later, and some of you have, if you've spoken once, please keep your comments as concise as possible.
Well, I don't think you're going to be ready for a public hearing at the next meeting because we've discussed things about the next draft of the ordinance, but I haven't heard consensus from the Planning Commission on a couple things, like the density numbers for PUD. Those were not in the last draft ordinance. Now they are. The PC didn't discuss those density numbers. You know, it's hard to say the Planning Commission came up with the numbers if the Planning Commission didn't discuss the numbers. I think it's important that you finalize a draft before you have a public hearing on the draft, because if we can't see the draft 15 days before the meeting, how are we going to know what's being considered to be recommended to City Council? So I just have an issue with that, and I'll talk quickly. The master plan keeps getting brought up. It's not really optional to follow what's in the master plan. That was created with public input. And people responding to the master plan survey want eating and drinking establishments downtown. 90% favored that. Small retail stores and boutique shops, 81% favored. Entertainment and recreation, 73% favored. Salons and repair shops, 64% favored. In contrast, there was limited enthusiasm for high-density housing options such as large complexes, apartment complex, with only 28% favored. Allowing first-floor residential apartment buildings with no maximum units per building and groups of up to 8 attached townhouses in commercial service districts leaves little growth opportunities for publicly accessible downtown if developers develop Ferrysburg's commercial and service parcels for residential-only uses. This also applies to Lepics. Please consider requiring first-floor commercial and service uses for parcels with that zoning, allowing residential above to create the publicly accessible, vibrant year-round downtown residents called for when their input was used to create the master plan. And then I have one more quote from the master plan. Existing houses north of 4th Street along Ridge Avenue should be maintained to preserve their historical character. The residential character of this portion of the corridor should be promoted to provide a sense of neighborhood activity in the city's core, end quote. You don't have to rezone these historic houses R5. You can preserve them with a lower density residential character that the master plan calls for.
Thank you.
Hello again. Clark Tibby. I live at 16927 West Spring Lake Road. Sounds like it's pretty undecided on that parcel. But my question and comment is, I appreciate you postponing this, delaying this whole action, because this first time I've heard of it was 8 days ago. And I'm also curious, David Jarosik, I think, is the gentleman that we were listening to. Who is he and who does he represent? I'm just curious. Thank you.
Thank you. The city of Ferrisburg has hired you to act as our.
I'm Joe Lyons,
Just-
16857 Virginia.
Just a minute, Joe. I was
Sorry,
just
sure, Gary.
responding to the previous gentleman. So how long have you been our consultant for the city of Ferrisburg?
I've been attending these first Thursday meetings since 2013. So I'm the city's consulting planner.
And you also represent other communities in West Michigan?
That's correct, and in other states as well.
Thank you. Excuse
Okay.
me, Joe, go ahead.
Thank you. Okay. I appreciate the time that you put into this, Dave, and the presentation that you brought to us this evening. I do have some concerns yet with regard to some of the overlay, the inland overlay areas, as you do, I think. Particularly, those areas have turned into kind of large home developments where people expect the neighborhoods to remain what they are. And I think people basically expect Ferrisburg to remain a bedroom community, as it has been over the years. Then we service Muskegon and Grand Rapids and Grand Haven. And that the aspect of perhaps apartment buildings being placed in 60-foot lots or multifamily homes being placed in inland overlay areas is basically unacceptable. Some of the other things, as far as industrial development and commercial development, I think those things are long past due. Having been a member of the Zoning Board of Appeals here in the city, and frankly, having to deal with setback requirements and lot coverage requirements and drainage problems that have existed in many of the smaller lots, it really appalls me a bit to think that we would have multiple residences on some of these smaller lots in some of the tighter communities. I guess that concludes my concerns on these things. Thank you very much. I appreciate your time.
Thank you, Joe.
I'm David Brockmeyer. I live at 16935 West Spring Lake Road. I'm also the developer on Cottage Shores. And I think I have a little bit of a unique perspective on this, but I think first of all, thank you for everybody's time and effort, all the months you've been putting into this. I've gone through this process of getting our project approved, and I greatly appreciate the revisions to the PUD process, because I spent a ton of money before I had any idea if it was ever going to get approved, in the tens of thousands. So that's one thing. Accessory dwelling units, I don't understand exactly, and I would look at you to consider allowing those to be short-term rentals. Just because, and I'm not a fan of short-term rentals. I think anybody's heard me speak on this before or read my Facebook post will say I am not really a fan of short-term rentals. I think they inflate prices unjustly, make things unaffordable for regular people who are competing against businesses, which is what a short-term rental really is. But if you're allowing a short-term rental in if you have a homeowner living in a place and they have a barn or something and they want to rent that out to other people and they're living there, I think it reduces a lot of the problems and it takes away some of the concerns that people have about noise and congestion and, or noise at least, and problematic renters. So I think that would be one thing I would ask you to reconsider. The whole notion of the downtown is something that I don't think we're ever going to be able to really capture, even in the long term, unless I want to have a bar in downtown Ferrisburg, so I'd love to see that. I'd love to see more restaurants down there. But so the way the roads are structured, I just don't see it ever happening. With the traffic amount you get there, if we're going to have a downtown, it's going to require major reconstruction of a lot of different structures in that area, and to make it a walkable downtown area. And that's what makes a downtown vibrant, is walkability. Businesses attracting people and bringing them downtown. I'm all in favor of the idea, the concept, but if we're not addressing the street structure and the streetscape, then I don't think we have a whole lot of hope of ever seeing that happen, at least in that location. So that's my comments. Thanks.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Chris Schropp. I live at 523 Ridge Avenue. First of all, I want to thank the Planning Commission for your work. David, thank you for your presentation. I came here tonight not in support or opposition because I didn't have enough information. So I really do appreciate your presentation. I live on Ridge Avenue again, in that R5 area that you spoke about, whether it be a high density or medium density. I would support probably medium density designation there. And one of my concerns is, will these rezoning have any effect on taxes that we pay? Or if it's just a name change is all it is, and maybe some of the other items as far as accessory buildings and future development on those properties. So my house is about 100 years old. So Al, I think I got you by a few years. Back when I went to purchase my home in 1999, it was zoned core commercial. So I did have difficulty. The bank wouldn't provide me a mortgage because of that designation. So I had to go, I don't remember if it was the Planning Commission or the Zoning Board, but I did have to get my house grandfathered in so that I could get that mortgage. So I'm interested in how this is all going to play out and what it means for the future, but thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Zoning Commissioner report?
No report.
No report.
No report.
Mr. Mayor, are you going to speak to the FIT?
I don't really want to steal your thunder, but I will speak on something else.
Okay. I would like to mention that the city manager and the mayor and I attended a Zoom meeting for a MSU extension program called First Impression Tourism, and also with members of the local chamber and what's Marie with?
Visitors Bureau.
Visitors Bureau. And so there's been some talk about renaming the tagline for Ferrisburg as part of a process to rebrand who we are as a community. Instead of the Ottawa Peninsula, one idea has been floated, City of Parks, because we have so many fine parks in the community. But this program is to engage people who are experts in the appearance of different communities, and we're going to have visitors coming to Ferrisburg and looking at what they see as opposed to what we feel we know about our own community. And can I mention the date, the future community? So there, September 29th. So September 29th, we will be having a special forum here at City Hall to present the results of this assessment, First Impression Tourism. And we hope many of you who turned out tonight with your concerns about the housing zoning changes will also be interested in this, this presentation about how other people see Ferrisburgh and what that might mean for what kind of changes we might want to make. So that's my comment tonight. Jordan?
I just want to thank the public for coming tonight and sharing all of your thoughts and concerns. Because at the end of the day, this doesn't just affect us six, it affects probably everyone in this room. So thank you.
No comment. So just to reiterate what Gary and the city manager and I attended today, that was on First Impressions. I always remember getting home from college and going, geez, I don't remember that light switch being there, Mom. Or I don't remember this one step being a little higher or lower than the rest of them after being gone for a few months. And so one of the benefits that's going to happen with this program is Michigan State is coming in and analyzing us from a first impression standpoint with the idea for city branding. So that's very exciting. It's fantastic that we had all these public comments today, which public comments are always some of the most fun and interesting parts of all these meetings. Lord knows David's presentation wasn't as thrilling as the public comments. That stuff can be really dry. We've had months of it, months, till 9:30 at night. I am concerned in terms of the next step. You were asked about that before, Chairman. You know, the why now, what's going to happen with taxes, what's going to happen with the property values. The idea has been thrown out about having another hearing or having the hearing next month. I don't see how that can fit into the timeline for us to be able to properly review and get citizen feedback, unless that's just a target goal, knowing that we're just going to table it again. How is that going to happen?
Speaking for myself, this commission has spent a lot of time on this.
Yes.
Richard, I would like to send it up to council and let you guys work on it. So personally, I'm ready to vote on this next month.
Okay.
But you know, I think
we'll.
I think, to be honest, we'll see how it goes.
Okay.
I think.
I didn't mean to put you on the spot.
Are you making a proposal that we not have the public hearing?
No, I think that we should. I think that we should, but
We'll have discussion, won't we?
Well, if you decide to set the public hearing for next month, it doesn't, we could still continue to debate the project, and even changes can even be made after a public hearing based on the input you receive. So you could have the public hearing and see how it goes, and if you could always delay it at that point another month if you felt that changes need to be made. Or as you said, you could have next month be more of a listening session or another presentation with additional information. So either way.
Mr. Chairman, what about opening up? We'll have the public hearing, but open up at 5 o'clock, have people hear us, let people come in and informally talk to us so that when they can come and make their statements, but then when we discuss things, we will have some firsthand person-to-person knowledge that we can react as we make these changes. It doesn't mean that we postpone the public hearing. It just gives a little bit of extra time for people to come in and speak to us. Would anybody be willing to do that? I would be willing to do that.
So this, what you're suggesting would be sort of a
little mini open house, maybe 6 or 5:30 or whatever time you want, where people could come in. They can still make their public statements that are recorded. They can also speak to us and give us some input, and maybe we can give them some input about some of these things as well.
Well, one thing I would like to add to that is if there was that sort of arrangement, David, is it possible that what Regina is suggesting could be combined with some sort of display or information about the next draft? And it's my understanding that we would have a draft that was presented to the public with due notice, but that it's still subject to our making changes and amendments.
We could have a few display boards and as long as Craig's able to open up early, I could be here and as many planning commission members that can be here to be here early to help facilitate would be great. But other than that, I don't think we necessarily need a quorum. We could just have the stations open, be available for question and answer, and just be able to clear things up ahead of the hearing if that's okay with Craig.
Yeah.
Okay. So stay tuned for some news on this. We'll try to work with your suggestion to have a hybrid or special meeting with a presentation and an opportunity for dialogue before the start of the regular meeting. Greg?
What time is good for you? 5:30, 5 o'clock?
With what?
What time is good to start?
Well, it's not what time do people want? I mean, I can get here at 5, but I'm retired, so I don't know about the rest of you. What's it, 2 hours?
How about 6 o'clock?
5:30, 6
How about
o'clock?
an
Sure.
hour earlier? And that still gives some of us a chance to have a bite to eat.
Mr. Chair. Oh, sorry, go ahead and finish. I just had a separate question.
So I was suggesting we were talking about 5:30 or 6. I think 5 is a little too much. Sandy?
So my question regarding we are going to have a draft then to present to make sure that's out to the public with the notice of the public hearing. And I know that there's some fill in the blank areas that will be probably up for discussion. Can those be kind of called out or highlighted? The areas that, maybe we haven't discussed numbers or things like that on the draft can be kind of called out of, these are certain things that maybe haven't been set in stone, like through the commission.
So would you like some direction for us to answer any questions right now? We had Chris Schropp spoke from that portion of the core commercial that, and I think you suggested maybe making it R3 instead of R5. And that's sort of an open question.
I would suggest that we set the hearing with R3 in mind. I just did measure some of the lot sizes, widths, and they are more in line with R3. So we had some of them are well, they're in R3 is being adjusted downward slightly because that's the current RG2, but it looked like several lots were about 7,500 square feet, but some of the widths were more towards 60, 65, so that would be in line with proposed R3. And I think that would probably better reflect what's there now than what R5 could allow.
And commissioners, are we good with David's suggestion of splitting the inland overlay to an east and west, at least for the purposes of giving us a draft for our next meeting?
I'm curious how the public will react to that. So.
Okay, so I think that seems like a thoughtful, sensitive approach. Let's put that in the next presentation.
And then just in terms of the dimensional requirements, I made some suggestions about 6,000 square foot minimum, 60 wide. Setbacks would stay the same as currently in R4. And then the maximum lot coverage, I had suggested considering a reduction from that 60 down to 35 to 40. Do you want to leave 35 to 40 as that range there, or have a placeholder, or just put one or the other? I'm going to provide some more data. I think the average is going to be 35 or less, but there are going to be many lots that are over 40. So it's just, but if we're talking about just an average, I think 35 would work. But there still will be lots that are non-conforming to that.
I think you're attempting to match what's there. So I don't, I think you can use a range and unless anyone have a strong feeling on this?
I think, just to get the best number possible on the draft, and then it can be up for discussion, I think.
40 provides more flexibility.
Yes, it would.
But realize too that we have significant drainage problems over there.
Well, and what I could do is whatever, if it's 35, 40 or any other number, I'll provide the block analysis to show those averages and how, and then we can back into a number at that point. But we could just advertise as 35 to 40 as a highlight issue to bring up at the next meeting.
Is there any other kind of open-ended thing that you need direction from us on?
I don't think so. It was mentioned about the PUD density. I'm actually comfortable with the densities as noted. And so and just want to mention this, so it's on the record, but our RD was 3.5, I'm sorry, the new names. R1 is 3.5 units per acre, R2 is 4, R3 is 8, R5 is 12. And the reason for those numbers is that's the single family lot size, well, an acre divided by the minimum single family lot size. So with our new R5 is a 3,000, well, about 4,000 square feet, and then 3,600 for other attached units. That's about 12 units per acre. And we had discussed in previous meetings when we did all the visual images of various neighborhoods and townhouse sizes, we had said 12 units per acre would be appropriate for that area. So that's why I set that at 12 units per acre. R3 is at 6,000 square feet. So 1 acre divided by 6,000 is approximately 8 units per acre. R2, 10,000 square foot. So divide that, 4 units per acre average. And then R1's a little smaller at 12,000 square foot. So that would be about 3.5. So that's the justification where those came from. And they're actually less. R1 and R2 are less than the current allowances. And then R3 and R5 are slightly more than the current allowances. So I think they make sense.
It's rational in that way.
It's based on the single family lot size. That was the justification for the average. So when we get a PUD, we base their base density is based on that chart, which is based on single family lot size. Then mathematically, what the density is. So I think that makes sense as shown in your packet. So are you okay with those numbers in there for the hearing?
Yeah, just a quick question. Is that going to get us in alignment then better than we were before between the PUD densities and the underlying zoning densities?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Excellent.
And just to just so we have this on the record and it's been discussed, for the R4, I would suggest that we just set that at 7 or 8. So R3 is 8. R4 is probably going to be this similar. I'd probably just set that as a
That's the
as
west.
8 as a
Excuse me,
placeholder.
That's the east.
R4 is east, correct. Mathematically, it's about the same, but we can refine that and look at that a bit more. But I think for the sake of the public hearing document, those densities make sense as shown, except for R4 being 8, and which R4 is already 8 now. But just want to confirm that with the change to the single family.
And it's our understanding that you're trying to study the information and present something that's as consistent as possible with what is existing now.
In the reason I wanted to base it on single family density, because if we base it on multifamily or anything else, well, some of these districts don't even allow for multifamily or attached. So single family is the less aggressive approach to setting density. And so I think it makes sense. And then there's some opportunities for density increases if they meet the goals of the master plan.
Great. Okay, I think we're done.
So we'll set it for 5:30?
5:30 or
Good for
6?
me.
It's good for you? Okay. All right. Are you cooking dinner for me?
So
Say it's like a
open
crock
house-
pot event or?
Open house first at 5:36? What was it again?
I'll bring cookies.
This is April
Okay.
2nd, right?
Thursday, April 2nd, and we'll have a special open house forum and presentation starting at 5:30. Right. Thank you.
Question, sorry.
Adjourn?
Move to adjourn.
I
Sorry?
just one more comment. It was kind of burning in the back of my head here. I wanted to mention in all of the residential zoning districts, the only new land use allowed is accessory dwelling units. So there's a comment earlier that we're adding multiple family in districts that don't allow it. That's not accurate. We're only adjusting some of the dimensional requirements where those products are already allowed. So 2-family, 3-family townhouses and multifamily are only permitted in R3 and R5. And so we're not opening up any residential district for anything new, but we are making some adjustments to the dimensional requirements. That if those attached products or multifamily products do go in, they're more consistent with what's there already.
One last question. Just as far as the open house goes, is that, I was kind of under the impression it was going to be more just informal open house boards, questions, things like that, but then the formal presentation was going to be in the official meeting on the record, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
A drop-in style open house, similar to master plan.
Yeah.
All right. Are we ready to adjourn? Yes. Okay. Thank you.